Our next panelist is queued up, and we are now back on track time-wise. And we're now back on the theme of getting practical, and what more practical application could you find than bringing AI into the mix, AI into the conversation, and in this panel, AI into the classroom. And moderating our panel is Feliciea Jibson. And I think the best thing I can just simply say, the most simple accolade I can give to Feliciea is that she has 28 years experience in special school education, both as head teacher and teacher, administrator, and as a businesswoman in the area of inclusion in education. Feliciea, over to you.
Unmute. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much, Jeremy, for the introduction. Welcome to our panel, AI and Inclusion Shaping to Tomorrow's Classroom. This international panel brings together leading voices shaping inclusive education through innovation and empathy. Today, I'm really grateful to be joined by Long Van, a CEO at Begin Vietnam, brings AI-driven platforms for equitable learning and workforce development. If you want to wave your hand, Long, for people to see you. Fabulous. Sheilah Mukholi-Lutta, she's Assistant Director of Education Kenya, advances inclusive education, inclusive policy, assistive technology, and universal design across schools. Sheilah, if you want to wave your hand from there for people to see you. Brilliant. We have Steve Close, Head of Product of PAGS, joining us from the UK, turns strategies into impactful teacher-centered tools. And last but not the least, and really important to us, Gustav Geldenhuys, founder of Neurodivergent by Design, pioneers ethical, human-centered AI built on lived neurodivergent experience. If you can wave your hand from there, Gustav. Hopefully you are in the session. Everyone is in the session, yeah? Is Gustav here?
I am not sure I can see my video. Something's gone wrong.
Okay, we can hear you from there, so which is really important. So I'm sure that we can work up the video hiccups as we go along. So today our focus is how technology and particularly artificial intelligence can serve inclusion rather than define it. Our goal in this conversation is to move beyond theory. So we've all been learning about AI, and to talk what really happens in classroom first and what still needs to change, and how AI can actually play an important part in creating learning environments that meet every child where they are. Before we begin this discussion, which is a very interesting panel, and I hope that we're going to get a lot of questions, I would like to start with a human story that reminds us what inclusion is really about. So, Gustav, I'm going to put a spotlight on you. You've been diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia 6, and you only began to excel once the teacher recognized your potential. So after 2 decades leading in technology via the Vodafone, BlackBerry, and Samsung, you discovered that you have autism, you are on autistic spectrum, and that moment actually reframed your entire life. So can you, shall we start with yourself? Can you start off by sharing us how your own experience as a neurodivergent learner shapes your view of inclusion today, and how this perspective actually inform all kind of tools and systems that we should build for future classrooms?
Fantastic. Yes. I mean, thank you for having me first off. I know you guys can't see me, but maybe that's a good thing. I was diagnosed age 6. My mother was amazing with spotting that I wasn't quite as other children. I was also in the doctor's surgery at the time, and the doctor told my mum, your child's got ADHD. And then that basically started a whole snowball of events. But I, from a very young age, knew that I was different. I knew that I couldn't concentrate as well as others. I couldn't do things as well as others. I did my first formative year in school. In South Africa, we start school at age 6. I did our sabe, or the first year of school twice, basically, because I couldn't draw a cross. I had to use 2 hands to basically write a cross. As my brain then caught up a little bit, I can now at least draw a cross. But I knew I was different, and I was treated differently by teachers throughout. But because I knew I was different, because my mother was able to fight my cause, was be able to say, this is what Gus needs, this is how you need to help him. She was driving that into the teachers. But I was fortunate enough to have that support system from my mother. But a lot of people that's going through the school system at the moment, they don't even know that they have got ADHD. They don't even know they have dyslexia. They don't know they have autism. They don't know what flavor of neurodivergence they have. Their parents have grown up with their own narrative of what normal looks like. And our position of what normal looks like versus let's call it a neurotypical family, that's completely different. So when you go into the school system and suddenly your child is not the same as the other children, it's a big awakening moment for some parents that they can't cope. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to actually get the access that they don't need to. They don't know how to speak to the teachers to be able to get the best out of the teachers. Then you've got teachers that actually is neurodiverse friendly, that know how to teach those children. And those teachers is what the neurodiverse children thrive under. The teachers that is not that way inclined, that's more of the old school method of the children will do what they are told and one size fits all, that doesn't work. My own son, he's 7. He's now reached the stage where he's got his first teacher that is very much not neurodivergent friendly. Now, my wife, she's a clinical psychologist. She actually works at a autistic school in the UK. She has come home in tears sometimes after having the interactions with that teacher. Now, for someone that has got the training, that is an amazing mother, to be able to come home in tears, that is why I am building what I'm building. An interconnected system which connects everybody and all the services basically back into reality so that we don't have any parents or kids that basically go missing. For me, that is making sure that everybody has the same opportunities as others. That is what's important. Transparency is key. And that's why, for me, my experience in Samsung, my experience in BlackBerry, my experience in my corporate world where I was hiding who I was basically, everybody could see he was ADHD. Everybody could see I was different, but it wasn't about being different publicly. It was just basically getting on with it. But eventually people find out, and then that changes things. And that is the world that we live in right now. And that is what I am trying to change. I want to make sure that if you are neurodiverse, you should be able to proudly say, I am neurodiverse. These are my strengths. And then you will be able to focus on those strengths and making sure that those are amplified. The weaknesses, let's call it weaknesses, the things that we are not great at, those things is ways that we can get around it. And that's where AI can come in to actually to pick up the slack of those type of areas. So when I look at system design, I look at everything as a whole. I look at my experience, what is easy for me as a ADHD, autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxic 44-year-old. And I think back, what would make my life easier if I was 7? what would make my children's lives easier, what would make other people's children's actually thrive. Because 2035, that is apparently when we will have job titles that's not even been invented yet. So our children, or my children, they will be doing things that we haven't even thought about yet. So how is it that we are going to put our children and our future of the world into the world's hands without actually changing the education system that hasn't really had a revamp since the 80s, if we look at it as on a worldwide scale? So I think that everybody needs to come together. We all need to work as a team, and basically try and amplify each other to be able to get the school system across the world good and ready for what's to come.
Thank you so much, Gus. This is a powerful reminder that inclusion is not about fixing children. I wouldn't call them weaknesses. I will call them areas of development. I will call them strengths. And I will celebrate that there is a difference and we are not all the same. It's not about fixing the systems that failed. It's about fixing the system who actually fails to see the potential and to identify their strengths and to identify the barriers to learning. So now let's move from this personal to a more broader question. And it's about changing in education as AI, as everybody's talking, and is a lot of hype becomes part of our landscape. So I'm going to start with a question that is for all panelists. And please feel free to intervene and make your point. Education is about shifting away from one size fits all. It's a model that towards more adaptive and personalized learning. So this is what we always hear, personalized learning. So from the panelists, how do you see AI influencing this change? And what developments are you actually noticing in classroom or educational systems you are involved in? Sheilah, would you like to start, or Steve, Long?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Steve. I'm the head of product at Pugs. So yeah, I think it's rapidly changing is the answer. What AI can really do is cut down and drastically reduce a lot of the admin burden which is placed upon us. But I think there has to be structure in how it's used. We'll get into that a bit further down the line, but I feel the clear way, in my experience from working with schools, is looking at, well, they don't have the resources, they don't have the time. Even everyone wishes they did, to have complete individualized learning for every learner. It's simply not possible at the moment because of those constraints. And this is where AI can sort of bridge the gap. I think there was previously a bit of worry around AI replacing people. But as we're using it more and more, it's becoming more evident that I don't think that is the case. In the same way as people will look at how search and search engines and the internet were going to kill off the libraries and things, and it was cheating if you used a search engine over opening a book and writing your own bibliography. AI is just another tool which can really help us get to those actionable points a lot quicker, especially when it comes to personalized learning.
Brilliant, thank you. Long, would you like to add a couple of lines in here?
I think Steve just said everything, but from a tech leader perspective, I just want to add that this is the key. As we are not replacing the teacher with one AI, but what we're doing is we are augmenting one teacher so they can effectively manage diverse needs for every student. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Sheilah, just a couple of...
Yeah.
No, you're going to have the microphone a little bit later. It's just the role of AI in education. You see it, yeah.
Yeah. AI has come to bridge the gap and make learning easy, interesting, especially for the learner with special needs in education. It has come to make education inclusive and accessible. So we are moving away from the traditional methods and making learning more accessible, supporting the learner, bridging the gap between a learner and a teacher who may not maybe actually know what they're supposed to do with the learner depending on the disability category. So for me, AI is playing a big role in making education inclusive and more accessible for the learner and trainee with a disability. Thank you.
Thank you all. That was our first question. And the second one, we're going to go to actually the challenges in adaptive curriculum for students with special needs. And these are the everyday challenges of what the teachers are facing. Myself being a teacher at heart, what actually, Sheilah, I'm going to start with you, because what are the main obstacles that educators encounters when adapting the curriculum for special educational needs? Because we are just thinking of the overcrowded classrooms, too many assignments to mark, lack of trained staff, and heavy reliance of manual processes. So after you make your point, I'm going to give the microphone to Long and Close after this, to Steve, sorry. Sheilah?
Yeah, thank you so much, Felicia. So beyond what we have said, we are looking at systemic and policy barriers. So we lack clear guidelines on how to adapt the curriculum. Like in Kenya, the practice is we develop resources for what we call regular, for mainstream, and then we start adapting for SNE. So you find that the resources for SNE will lag behind 2-3 years after the learner in the mainstream has received their resources. We are also looking at inadequate teacher preparation. The teachers are not aware of technology and AI per se. The highest technology some of them know about is the laptop and mobile phone. But talk about assistive devices and technologies, the teachers are not aware. So you realize that comes out of the pre-service training. It gives very minimal exposure on the issue of technology and AI. And unless a teacher or an educator takes a personal initiative to learn more or to go for in-service training, then you see that there is a gap. And that hampers individualized and personalized instruction for these children. We are also looking at environmental and infrastructural barriers. If the school infrastructure does not support an adapted learning environment, then it hampers access to education. The issue of accessible ablutions, accessible toilets, ramps, visual signage, quiet sensory and friendly learning spaces. So it prevents, we may say we have provided access, but if a learner is not able to physically participate and engage, then it means that that learner is left out in some way. Also, the issue of language and communication barriers. Students with hearing impairment or those with total who are totally deaf require sign language. How many of the teachers are fluent in sign language? It is one thing to have basic signing skills, and it is another to be competent in sign language, whether it's Kenyan, American, or British, for you to be able to relay content to this particular learner or trainee within the learning spaces. Other modes of communication, alternative modes of communication, speech, learners with speech and language difficulties. How is the teacher equipped? How are the other educators equipped in order to support such learners within our classes? And one of the other issues that is very important is parental and community engagement. You see, we have advocated for inclusive education and inclusion of children with disabilities in our learning spaces, but what we front for more is the rights. How about we go beyond rights and also look at parental responsibility, our responsibility in the education of this learner with a disability. And so it makes involvement in learning a bit hampered because the parent is bringing the child to school and it is like the child is here, basic education is a right, and the child has to benefit from this. But what is my role as a parent? Issue of assessment and progress tracking. There are challenges in Kenya right now. We are struggling with competency-based assessment, leave alone about alternative modes for this learner who may not be able to write, but can speak, can present their responses in verbally. Can we have alternative modes of assessment? I don't know if my colleagues have something to say. Otherwise, then I would go on and give the next 5. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheilah. I think you highlighted the physical challenges that we have in the learning environment and loads more. So we don't want to make teaching profession a terrifying profession, because it's an absolutely wonderful profession to have. And what we need to really be open and honest about it, it's one of the most wonderful and most rewarding jobs that you can ever have. That response that you get immediate from the children is absolutely unbeatable, and no corporate world is going to give you that back. So that is the beauty of being a teacher, and having, after 20 years, sending messages to say, Miss, thank you so much, I made it to that university, is making a massive difference. You don't get that in Tesco or in any other retailer shop saying that, oh, I've got a Gucci and hey, his is nice. From the teaching profession, you really get. It's a beautiful profession, and we really have to employ all the tools that is possible to help the teacher and to alleviate their admin task, to give them more time back. So Steve and Long, please, this is you now.
I love all the insight from Sheilah, but let me contribute to this by introducing a real-world example from Vietnam. Vietnam is a developing country, and right now we actually have an official class size cap of 35 students max. But in our major city, like Ho Chi Minh City or the capital of Hanoi, it's very common when you see like 50 or even 70 students in a single public school classroom. And I personally was in that middle public classroom with 55 students in the past. So you can imagine that if you are a teacher in that room, even that you are a good teacher, you're passionate, but it is impossible to create like unique lesson plans for everyone, right? So you teach in the middle, and some students get bored, some students get left behind. So it is very like overwhelming with like the overcrowded number of students in the classroom. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and also a personal experience from you, Steve.
Yeah, I think Long and Sheilah really covered it. Exactly on Long's point, what we are seeing is increased numbers, increased workload, and not enough support in place for the teaching staff. And unfortunately, that does lead to a lot of people leaving the profession. They come in enthusiastic and they want to help children learn and they enjoy it, but sadly you're kind of beat down by the overwhelming demand placed upon them. And I feel that's really where we, myself and you, working in a solution such as PAGS can really help people out. Sheilah mentioned, one of the problems was access to technology, but kind of following that thread, I feel like another point is confidence. Even if you have the most well-resourced school and staff members, they can be unconfident in using those tools. And that's really where people like ourselves have to help them out. We have to build systems which are easily accessible, which help people get away from the computers to get that face-to-face time. And they're not sat doing admin all of the time. And yeah, both Gus and Sheilah mentioned transparency and engagement with parents. And what we do see from my own experience as a teacher as well, we had a lot of students, because I used to teach a video games course. As you can imagine, a lot of students who had autism were gravitating towards that. And you could see they had problems, and the information just wasn't shared well enough to actually be usable by us, the staff members. There was fragmented systems, and what again systems like ours can do is bring an all-in-one solution where that information for every child isn't spread out, and it is transparent, it's available. And as Sheilah said, the engagement with parents, we can help out with that as well by surfacing that information so it's accessible by everyone. So I think, yeah, we've pretty much covered all of the challenges. The main one for me was time. It really is. But I think a lot of the time we can really help out practitioners just by simplifying the tools that are available.
This is brilliant. We surfaced the challenges, and now we are in an AI session. How actually can AI support this curriculum adaptation? So how do you see, and how do you see this AI offering real support in helping school to adapt us? So just a practical example, can we home in and just give it? Because this will be really important for, we talked about different countries in here, we talk about differences and cultural differences. How can we actually do that if we have any meaningful and realistic examples? Shall I start with you, Gustav?
Yeah, thank you so much, Felicia. So,
okay, Sheilah, yeah?
Gustav?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah.
AI is, as we said, AI is timely and very paramount in making education accessible for the child or learner with disabilities. When we come to the issue of print disabilities, we can solve the issue of a learner who may not be able to pick a book and hold it at 30 centimeters like you and I and read by using AI and technology, developing digitally accessible textbooks, turning some of the content into digitized content using graphics, coding, and all that. I don't know if I'm audible. So to me, I feel like AI is very important in the adaptation for content for our learners with various categories of disability, and it makes the content accessible. And that is like screen readers for students with visual impairment, speech to text for those with hearing impairment, and simplified content in the universal design for learning for students with intellectual disabilities. Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you, Sheilah. Gustav?
So what we've done, and I think what is going to be useful for the world, not just for teachers, but for parents as well, but is literally, if you look at Long's example of a class size of 70, the extreme, real extreme circumstances, with our system, the teacher can literally create one lesson plan, and based on the child profile that is saved, that will then tailor up to 70 different lesson plans based on the child's needs and learning styles. So whether they are dyslexic, whether they can only listen, whether they can't type really well or they can't write yet, that will actually take it into account. So as the teachers obviously giving the lesson, if they have a tablet in front of them or a computer in front of them, obviously they'll be able to follow along with the teacher. But it will also help for them for afterwards if they have to catch up with their parents maybe, because a lot of the times neurodiverse needs to go and refresh and go and do it again because maybe there was a distraction at the time. Maybe they were taking 5 minutes out because they were overwhelmed. This way, it will literally give them their tailored lesson plan, and the teachers can tell the parents, please, can you go revise that again? I don't think he was quite there at the time. But the teachers and the parents will both be able to see the lesson plan in detail. For me, what AI is giving us is the ability to tailor very quickly like that. It gives the ability for the teachers to be able to say, the curriculum is this. I want to be able to do it about rock density today. And then it will basically give the practical examples of a quick overview, but then the teacher itself can go into the various sections of the opening to the closing to the middle bit and actually say, no, I want these examples. And then they can type it and change it. And then that will effectively, again, tailor it for the children. That way, it speeds up the process for lesson planning, and the lesson delivery is instantaneous. So that for me is one of the reasons where I think NDD Edu is actually going to hopefully have an impact for parents and teachers, and obviously the children.
Thank you, Gustav. This is an interesting observation that you made. And today I was in a school, and we've been talking exactly about those issues, starting with the child first. Yesterday, a national conference was about personalized learning and how can we home in and make it more personalized. I mean, more is always has to be child-centric, but also bringing the other professions around it. And today was an absolute victory moment, I would say, because if we start with identifying the barriers to learning, if we understand where cognitively the child is from the developmental point of view, and what is actually stopping them for accessing the curriculum, and what are those differences. And it was a practical example. I absolutely loved it for a youngster of 15, and then he was struggling to predict what will happen next. And it was a class teacher for Masenko, now the head of inclusion. I say, yes, but my English teacher is teaching Macbeth. So I want that target to be into Macbeth lesson, and then to give me the personalization of the characters in Macbeth. And it was, and we just pressed the button on the AI and then gave all the tasks that actually the teacher had to do to meet that child's barrier to learning. And I said, you see that but AI will never replace the human person who did first the assessment on the child. So this is where we have to take that fear away, because the AI will never replace the human judgment. It's just here to enhance and to give us time back and to create these wonderful lessons that we don't have always the time. And myself, I spent hours and hours creating lesson plan for 3 different groups of children. So therefore, I think those tools, if we employ them at the right level and with the right expertise, with the right prompts and questions, can actually help and save us a lot of time. So if any of you would like to add more here on the practical application of the AI in classroom, please do.
I think it's hard to beat what you just said. That's amazing.
Yes, Long?
I have, I
Long,
just want to add one thing, because earlier Steve said about like a lot of complaint regarding the administrative work. So basically, from a report from McKinsey, it's a how AI will impact K-12 teachers. They estimate that for a 50-hour work week, AI can save teachers an average of 13 hours in grading and assessment. So think about that. And that's 13 hours they can get back to mentor, to connect and to focus on like the high touch point students who really need them most. And the other thing that AI do very well is that they can see patterns better than human. So AI can see patterns. A human teacher with like over 40 students might miss. Let's say that it can flag like Long's engagement in math like just dropped 30% in the last 10 days, and he stopped interacting in the forum. So this will allow the teacher, that is just a like dummy example, but what I'm trying to say is this allow the teachers to intervene before the student fails the exam or something like that, or fail the goal, something like that. So we can say that AI can be a factor that we can apply to detect, to have like early warning or predictive analytics. something like that.
This is amazing because early detection, prevention is better than cure. And early intervention will always make a difference. All research that we have available from university and academia, they tell us that the early we interfere, that actually we can optimize the outcome of these children. So early detection will help us to have a better prepared generation. One of the conversations we had yesterday is, do we prepare the students with the right thing, equipping them with the right skills for the future? Actually, are they prepared for the jobs that have not even been invented? How flexible are they in the meeting, in the thinking, the critical thinking, the executive functioning? Are they prepared to face what actually the world is preparing for them? Sheilah, did you wanted to add anything in here?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Felicia. So I'm looking at, we said that one of the barriers was the issue of monitoring, support, and follow-up. So actually AI can help us to move away from a situation where I have to wait for a quality and assurance and standards officer to come to my class to give me feedback about my lesson. So we are looking at self-paced learning and also self-assessment for both the teacher and the learner. I am able, out of the data, as long as said, to be able to predict or to look at my lesson, the outcomes, output, and either review, continue, or sustain whatever I'm doing. And it is very encouraging because mostly teachers in the SNE sector sometimes don't get the right predictions of the actual learner progress in their classes, like when you look at the teacher proficiency platforms. So it will be very interesting for these teachers to be able to populate what the learner has been able to do. In Kenya, we are looking at 100% transition, while people are looking at marks, we can be looking at the levels, the level-based achievements that my learner has and what I am able to do as a teacher, either to continue supporting review, engage, and even the learner will be encouraged to see the milestones that they have achieved. So AI is a good perspective.
Thank you, Sheilah. So I would summarizing, we employ AI to be co-creator and not just only consumers. And we also have to teach the new generation to do exactly the same, to be able to ask the right questions, to make the right prompts, to be smarter enough to check if the sources are not hallucination, to have that cognitive ability to be one step ahead and obviously to enhance their chances in a better world. Looks like Jeremy is hovering our panel. So I would like us to bring something else into everybody's attention. Is about the data privacy and the ethical consideration when we use AI, because we are ourselves going to cybersecurity, and this is absolutely paramount that everybody's aware of how do we teach the teachers to be aware of sharing the data within the AI systems. Who would like to jump in? Yeah.
Thank you, Felicia.
Can we let them address this because this is really important? Steve or Long or Gus?
Sure, yeah. I think following the kind of clear guidelines, it's about looking at identifiable information. And you can still address and use AI without the fear of kind of breaching that, as long as you're not kind of including things like the learner's name, their date of birth. But it's quite easy to get around that. You know, you just replace them. So instead of saying Steve does this, you can say it a learner. Rather than using their date of birth or specific age, use an age range. So rather than the learner is 14, say the learner is between 13 and 15. And your responses are still going to come back age relevant, but you're still not working into that grey area of sharing identifiable information, which can, you know, put you in some scary places.
Along anything from your side? Has been overseeing many systems.
Yeah, I just want to add that the data that should be shared to AI should be like just like student performance, engagement, or interaction patterns. It should not be including personal or identifying data. And then the good news is that if you're using Gen AI like ChatGPT or Gemini, actually you have to be responsible to like be careful about like providing the information to AI. But today, when I read a survey from UNESCO in 2025, this year, they show that the vast majority of institutions are now actively developing AI policy. And 60% of ed tech companies have adopted the method of real-time anonymization of student data. That means if you use these ed tech solution and you mistakenly put like some identifiable data, it will anonymize these data before feeding to like the large language model.
Yeah.
So which is a good news.
Yeah, brilliant. Anything that you want to add, Gus, and we can wrap it up in here?
Yeah, I think that obviously the Gen AI pitfalls is been talked about, but I think if you actually have the systems that's all interconnected, making sure that yes, you employ specific data anonymizing methods, but if you take away actually the personalized information from it, if you can do it safely, that way you can actually really get the best out of the system and the student, knowing how they are actually thriving or not thriving and how we can actually help them. That is why we have to be clever and better at how we build the system so that we don't share information outside into the world. However, keep it locally into the system and then break out what you need to actually go out. This is what we've built, but I think you need to be, there's a balance between what you put in and what you get out. And if you take out too much by anonymizing it or saying the learner is 13 to 15, I think things are lost. And I think that especially if that user is neurodiverse and they are not in the neurotypical scale, then it's actually going to deter from the educational piece for that student rather than actually a benefit. Would it be what I would say?
Thank you, Gus. Thank you, everyone. I know, Jeremy, our time is up. It was a privilege to lead this panel. It comes clear to all of us and also to the audience. I hope that AI is here not to replace teachers, to empower them, is to give them time back, is to surface insight, as we said, and is to help see learners as individuals. This is super important. Technology always must serve inclusion, not define it, and is the human understanding and actually is the empathy and the relationships that you in touch with that are important, that can turn any tool actually into real learning. So I would say we finish this panel, and I want you to only have like a one sentence. How would you summarize this? And thank you so much for joining me. And this panel, it's been a great honor. So one sentence from all of you, and then we close the session.
I'll go first.
Yeah, please.
AI can supercharge the neurodiverse if
you.
it is used in the right way. I speak from personal experience. Yeah, but you have to learn to do it right.
Long, thank you.
So from my perspective, AI is not going to replace any teacher. That it will augment in all of the teacher so they can effectively manage the diverse needs of the students.
Brilliant. Steve?
Yeah, I think AI needs to amplify, not automate is the key thing. You're not looking to replace your role. You're looking to improve your outputs. And I feel like that's what it can help with.
Brilliant. Thank you. Sheilah?
Thank you, Felicia. I'd say that AI is the strongest bridge ever that you and I can utilize to bridge the gaps and the barriers that we face in offering relevant, equitable, and accessible education and training, and also social inclusion for our children with disabilities or persons with disabilities. Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the audience. Have a great evening, and then hope to see you again.